Hello and welcome to my session on block printing at Space 2021. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Chandu Tennety and I'm a local artist, and I've been drawing for a long time. My go-to medium is pen and ink, but I've also been doing some wood carving and I've done some block printing, and I'm currently working on a book project that I'm illustrating using block prints. So what is block printing? I'm glad you asked. Block printing or relief printing is a printing technique by which you carve an illustration into a surface and then use that surface to make an impression on a different medium like textile or paper. The thing you can carve can be wood, linoleum, rubber. I personally like to use a form of synthetic rubber, and here's an example of what it could look like. As you can see, um, the illustration is of this animal walking out of a gate, and um, it's been carved onto the surface of this material. And then when you put ink over that surface, the paper picks that ink up. Here's another example of a block print that I made during a workshop. This actually has two plates, and it's an illustration of a hawk on a tree, and the hawk plate part can be removed so that I could, if I wanted, to print it with two different colors. So I could use one color for the background and a different color for the hawk, and then assemble them like that and then print them on the paper. I personally, the way I work is I typically draw out the illustration I want to do, either digitally or on paper, and then you can transfer that onto the plate, or I just tend to go ahead and draw it again on the paper. Typically, I can, on a darker kind of surface like this, I could use like a white crayon, like charcoal, or sometimes I can use ink to draw it out. Some folks have also had success with using printer ink, so like they print it out on paper and then use methods like transfer paper to transfer it onto the block. And once you have the artwork on the block, then you can carve it out. And you have to be careful. It's kind of, you have to think in negative space. So essentially you want to know that the parts that you're carving out are not the parts that you're going to take the ink. So like the part that remains is the part that's going to be raised enough to like pick up the ink, and the part that you carve out is the part that's going to be below that surface, and so it will not get the ink when you roll it on there. I'll show it to you as we go forward with this video. Today I'm going to be carving an illustration for my book project, and I have right here this material called Easy Cut from Blick, and it's basically two layers of rubber put together, and there is a dark layer on which the artwork goes, and the white layer that's underneath, that's a little bit harder. The dark layer is soft and it cuts really easily. As you can see, I've started work on this, and the picture shows a deer and a dog interacting with each other. And in this session, I'm going to carve this out, and then we're going to try and print it. All right. Just want to show you a couple of things. The tool I'm using right now is this little tool that you can get at any art store, whether it's Blick or Michael's. It essentially is a plastic handle with a ratchet head, and it comes with a set of 5 or 6 cutting tools. And it's relatively cheap. I would say it's anywhere between around $15. But the thing of it is, you can't really sharpen the tools. Once they start wearing out, you probably want to replace them. And then the key with this material is that you want to leave the parts that are going to take the ink, you want to leave them dark. And any parts that remain that look dark are going to get ink on them. So you want to remove everything that you don't want to get ink. And when you remove it, what you see is the white layer that's underneath. So as I've been working around the deer, this is basically the negative space. So if you look at it, there's the deer, the head of the deer, and then there's some flowers underneath. And I'm going to keep doing this until the only thing that's left is the deer and the dog. And then once I have that, then I can start to add detail to the individual elements, so that then again, any parts that I want to show up, like hair or eyes or whiskers, whatever those are, I want to work in the detail so that the dark parts will take the ink and the white parts will not. So now I have most of the negative space taken out, and as you can see, most of it is white, and the detail is going to go on some of these areas, like on the dog or over here on the deer, and that's going to happen with a different set of gouges, but it's not unlike mowing the lawn essentially. So you're taking out a bunch of stuff that you don't want, and you end up with a whole bunch of clippings. So that stuff was not as interesting. The detail work, though, is a little more interesting. So I'm going to turn my camera down towards the carving, and we'll take some time and work through the details. So sometimes when doing detail work, it helps to have more than one of these. So if you can see, this is a slightly more broad gouge, and this is a much narrower one. And using them in tandem, I started to work on the deer, and as you can see, I've worked through some of the head and some of the ear, and starting into the neck. I haven't done detail work on the snout or the eye yet, but that's coming up once I finish with the neck. So yeah, I've been using this broader one for the fur and to remove large chunks of the skull, of the head, and then the finer one for the details on things like the ear, for example, the tiny whiskers, and I hope to use it on like details in the eye or in the nose, um, and also for probably for the dog's fur as well. Stay tuned. Okay, so now we're done with all the detail carving, and the next step is to put ink on it and get a print. So in order to put ink on our print, first we need some ink. So this is water-soluble ink. But you can also get other kinds of ink that are oil-based. And then the other thing you need is a brayer. Now this is essentially like a paint roller, but instead of a sponge on the roller, this is like hard rubber. And what that can do is allow you to pick up the ink and then roll it on to the block. And in order to spread the ink, you need like some kind of tray, an ink tray. What works for me is this plastic cutting board that you can get at IKEA or Target, and it's like a few dollars. And it works really well. It has this one matte side and a glossy side. I typically use the matte side to spread the ink out. And in the next video, I'll show you the process. quickly wanted to show you some of the details and how they turned out after printing. I'm going to lower my camera a little bit. So as you can see, the fur on the deer's ears, and the eye, the highlights in the eye, and some of the hairs on its neck and the snout. Those are some of the areas where you can see where I removed the material, and that's the part that's actually white. And the part that's dark is the part that actually picked up the ink. So that's the part that's still raised on the final plate. Similarly, the flowers and the plants underneath work the same way. So the grass and the flowers are the parts that I did not carve, and I carved around all of that. Moving on to the dog, you can see also like the fur and its lips and the highlights in its eyes and its nose work the same way. So the neat thing with the water soluble ink that I used is that it's really easy to clean your block off after you've done printing by just running it under water. Now, if you used oil-based inks, that would be a little harder to clean, and you can. But then, this was the plate that I used the ink on, and it rinses right off. So it's a great way for beginners especially, to start with, so that they can, if you've made a mistake on the block and if you want to do something different, you could go back, clean it off, make your changes, and then go ahead and print again. And there you have it. With just a few materials and some time, you can get some really beautiful work and really unique kinds of illustrations using the block printing technique. There's many different kinds. There are more advanced users can make multiple stage prints. So you carve the block, take a print, and then you carve some more and then take another print, or use multiple colors and such. There's a lot of variety that you can explore. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope this was useful. Thank you.